Hey, hey.
Hello.
You win first in prize. First non-staff prize.
Hi, Ben and Elaine. While we're waiting, can I ask who, like, I know that in a conversation at our last meeting, there was mention that Rob is involved with childcare. Who are some other people who are trying to find childcare in the community?
I think he's working with, was it Audrey Graham?
That's my understanding.
Yeah, he's working to, expand. They have one center that's going to open in the Lutheran Church on, I think it's across from near Swanee Park in that area.
Mm-hmm.
So they will, but I don't know where they are with that. I don't know how soon they're open for business.
I'm just wondering because there's a new faculty member in the Hudson School of Business that sort of has involvement with from the We Tell Women Leadership Project, and I met with her. Name's Maren Christensen. Just because she was new, I'm like, hey, we need childcare down here, and so I'd love to connect them.
Yeah, that would be good. Well, we're actually maybe looking at funding, out of additional grant monies that we receive, funding more childcare. So if it's something that she can help facilitate, that would be great.
Yeah, I mean, she can just basically, she said really that it's the space, and then like you said, paying people. So
yeah,
and those are things that can be addressed with funding. So that's,
I mean, the more people that we can find that will, be able to take on, and open a child care center,
mm-hmm.
That would be, we're so limited in this.
Yeah, we need
that, we need it. Yeah, so I think it would be a great idea, but we're going to look to fund that on that budget that we broke out. That's one of our objectives. So. All right.
Well, at what point do we start calling phone numbers?
Yeah. So we are, we'll give them, it's only 3:03.
I'll give them till 3:05.
Oh, yeah. Actually, you know what? Let me.
You're muted, Liana.
Thanks. I wonder if people might, because I was sort of confused, like, oh, that's not really happening because we had one last week, but this is our regular one. That one was postponed. So.
Well, this is a regular one for a different group. Is the extra confusing part. This is the Diversification Action Council.
I think
advisory council.
I think
so
you were on this one. The other one was the one that you opted out of.
Yeah. So was I at that one last week? That I shouldn't have been? Okay. All right. Okay. I'm the confused.
That's okay. That's okay. No worries.
Yeah. So can you just take me off that list then? So that way I don't get confused. Thanks.
So I think my understanding is that there's a permanent spot in the other board for a USU representative.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to like nominate someone to attend.
Yeah, I just don't that so much of that was like making decisions on who gets
money,
and I don't think that that's our role.
Yeah, if it's not what the university is comfortable with, then we, we'll search somewhere else for another.
I'd rather, advise, give input, like that, but I want to make.
Yeah, I mean, I just emailed everybody again. I don't know. We'll see who jumps on.
And Ben, I got some emails from you, but I haven't looked at them yet. I saw them. look at them real quick.
Oh, I was on mute. At your leisure, Liana. It's no worries. Is Elaine frozen for everyone else?
Yeah, she's for me.
Elaine, if you have a second, do you want to just stop your video and start it again? See if we can get your moving face back.
We have you perpetually looking left here.
Oh,
That's one way. I think you left.
if that's the case.
We got you back.
Yeah. So I think 3 of us in the office might be too much bandwidth for this. So
We could hear you just fine, Elaine. It was just there's a moment where your video kind of froze.
yeah, and I'm thinking it could be because we're all 3 trying to connect out of this office. So, all right. So Liana, it looks like you're the winner today.
I was just gonna say I can call Gabe and Lacey maybe if y'all if you want to try to touch base with Carly, because I think she's the only other person who would be able to make it, right?
I will, let me copy the Zoom link so they can get on.
Okay.
All right.
I'm just gonna mute myself for a second.
John Gunther isn't going to be on. And I'll email Emily. Okay. All right, I emailed again and we'll see if anyone gets on. If not, we'll have to reschedule. Oh, here comes Carly.
Apologies for being late.
Oh, no worries. There are so many meetings these days that isn't, I was double booked with something else and I'm like, canceled. So
I was shoving food into my mouth as fast as I could and I got it done.
it's ridiculous how crazy busy. Hey, Carly, Brad Bertosh was going to try to reach out to you. He was from the other group.
Okay, oh yeah.
Yeah, he's a venture capitalist. So he said he wanted to have a chat with you about something. So I think he's got an idea. So
Okay.
yeah, so he'll be contacting you soon.
Great, that sounds good.
I just got a hold of Gabe and he said he'll be joining shortly.
Okay, good. I know they had a very long commission meeting last night. It was I started watching it late and I think I didn't get done till 9 o'clock and I started at 6:30 or something like that. So they had quite an evening of content to go through. So I felt bad you know.
And then Lacey didn't answer, so no word from Lacey.
Okay.
But
Okay.
I think we have 3. We have a quorum. Elaine, are you a voting member of this board? Do you know?
I believe so. Let me check. I think so. Yeah. So we have the commissioner as a voting member, and we have 2 Grand County citizens, and John's an ex officio, and I'm an ex officio. And we have another designee from the Planning Commission as an ex officio. So if we have one more, Gabriel, oh, there he is. Yay.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Hey. Well, you had a long evening last night.
It was fun. I always like going over the budget.
Long commission meeting. Wow.
I apologize for my tardiness here.
Oh, no, that's okay. We're all having to reschedule this, and it was my fault because I did not get to post the agenda. I was leaving I had to have surgery, and before I left, it was just one of those things. So anywho, okay, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4. So I guess we could call the meeting to order at this juncture. What time is it? Okay. So we will call the meeting to order at 3:12. This is Wednesday, July 7th. Okay. All right. So let me find the agenda. Here it is. Okay. So we have no one new. John Gunther is not going to be able to be here today. He's conducting a lot of interviews for the project of strategic plan and general plan. So he's really, really busy. And I guess, do we have any conflicts of interest, disclosures, or ex parte communications? Okay. And any citizens to be heard? I don't think there's anyone on here. We have no presentation scheduled because we wanted to try to work through the discussion and action items. So we have the first action item is the approval of the minutes from the June 2nd meeting. Does anyone want to make a motion?
I'll go ahead and move to approve the minutes from June 2nd.
Okay. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Carly seconds. And any discussion? Okay. Call for a vote. All in favor? All right, passes unanimously. All righty. Okay, we wanted to talk about, we're going to switch the agenda just a little bit. We want to review the, let's see here. Which one? We were going to review the 4 key points, and August kind of put them together in a sort of a synopsis rather than the large form with all of the pages, the Excel spreadsheet or the Google Sheets. And we want to talk about the 4 key points that we really hope that we can move forward on, because we want to make sure that we're making progress and keeping on task so that Commissioner Wojtek and I can go to the commission and let them know, kind of where we're going. I did do a brief overview to 3 of the county commissioners I think it was last week. just to give them an update of kind of where we're headed. So August, I don't know if you want to run through this particular, the priority of these strategic action items. You're off, turn your.
All right, can you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay, so we have, and this is a mix of, this is 4 things, a mix of what was in the strategic action plan and some that we added, but basically what we think is the priority for this group and what we really want to start working on specifically. So this first one.
And if I might add before you start, this was a result of Emily's comments about in the minutes about trying to sort of condense, look at it and target the most important points that we could work on first rather than having 29. It's these 4. Can we get through these and see what we can accomplish? So sorry, go ahead, Gabriel, or go ahead, August.
You're all good. So this first one was part of that strategic action plan. It asks us to continue to partner with Moab City, the regional business community, local districts, state offices, and nonprofits. And so I kind of listed who our contact points are. Here we have Moab City, Carly Castle. Thank you for being here. We haven't really taken the time to have like a one-on-one conversation with you at the city, and we would like to do that. In the regional business community, the Chamber of Commerce and the Canyonlands Business Summit. In terms of local districts, the Southeast Utah Association of Local Governments, which is also the Southeast Utah Economic Development District, is a group that we've worked with. State offices Go Utah, formerly GoEd, and EDC Utah, as well as nonprofits. And we've had a conversation with Wabi Sabi to have a forum with them, hosted by them with nonprofits so that we can have a conversation with the local nonprofit universe, how diversification and nonprofits in our community kind of mesh together. So the specific ask is to organize an economic development forum with each partner by December of 2021. To us, we think that's just kind of a meeting and an open conversation to have kind of outreach and engagement with all of these different stakeholders. And I think having Carly here on this group is great, and we're kind of already starting this via this body. I'm just going to keep kind of going along here. The second objective is to update the county ordinances and general plan, specifically to undergo a comprehensive review of land use codes, to remove unintended barriers to economic diversification, and to ensure that economic diversification is included in the general plan. The specific actions are to create a subcommittee to make a plan to review the land use code. So that's what we will hopefully do today. And then in a longer range term, work with John Gunther, who won't be able to make it today, to update the general plan accordingly. Third is to focus on USU as a development node. And I think we were thinking to consider adding that element as a scope of work to the SITLA subcommittee that currently has Carly and Emily as a part of that. I think that makes sense. And then lastly, to build infrastructure that supports diversification. And the action to take here is to dedicate a portion of the economic development budget that we are now forming to support this end. And lastly, to create a subcommittee to explore possible projects. What would that look like? So there's basically 2 asks for today's meeting, which is to create a subcommittee, or maybe 3, to create a subcommittee to create a plan to review the land use code, to kind of formalize adding a focus on USU as a development node to the SITLA subcommittee, and creating a new subcommittee to explore economic diversification infrastructure. That's all I have there.
So I guess we want to, as far as these 4, I mean, does anyone want to weigh in on the 4 that we've isolated from all of the others? Many things that are in that, some of the things are pretty broad that we can't, I don't think we can impact right now. So I think the 4 that we have here are probably the best ones for the board to, for this council to move forward with, because I think we can really make progress on these. So, and I don't know if you disagree or agree.
I would say that I really support this distillation. It definitely feels more approachable and digestible as a sort of action document. So, my feedback is positive.
Thank you, Gabriel. That's what we felt here, because based on what Emily was saying, and it is overwhelming to have that whole strategic, that draft go through the whole thing. And there's a lot there. And yes, they're all important for that diversification plan, but we are never going to get to all of them. So if we take it in chunks, I think we'll be much more able to accomplish, these goals. So if we start with these first 4, I think we'll be good. And as you can see, we've already, our department is really actively working with all of these entities and more. So I think we are moving forward to sort of build we're kind of building back our partnerships and our relationships with, especially with the SCU, ALG, and the SC, all the people in Price at those offices. Jerry Gamber and her staff up there. We're really working to make a difference and sort of build our relationship. So those are all in the works. But I guess August has down here is to organize an economic development forum with each of these partners by December of 21. So we still have a few months, but I don't know if it would be recommended that we pull from each one of those groups and have, create a committee that somebody, and Carly, it doesn't have to be you, it could be Nora or someone on this committee, which might be good for her to participate because she kind of knows the inner workings of everything. And then, somebody from the chamber, I'm sure I can get someone from Price to join in from SEUALG, Go Utah. We might be able to get Nan Anderson or someone from that office. And then of course we'll ask Wabi Sabi. So I think that could be interesting, bringing in some other people on a committee, if that sounds like something that could help us to move forward and sort of support what we're trying to do.
Elaine, I think it's a great idea to have Nora part of it. That is my recommendation too. And
okay,
her or Corey, someone from planning,
right?
From city planning, it makes a lot of sense.
You think Corey would be willing to participate as well? If Nora can't, then we'd have sort of one or the other, because they both work together. So it would be great for us to partner with one of them.
I think they'd be happy to do that.
Okay, that's great. And then I guess we will reach out to the other groups and see if we can't secure an individual to be on for this forum so we can talk about it. So I guess, do we want to vote on each one of these individually, or maybe we can just vote on all the action items? So maybe what I should do is have a motion from someone to discuss these action items. Since we're going to sort of vote on these things and make decisions.
Do we have a motion first and then discuss before voting?
We could discuss and then make the motion. I guess we can do that. So the second one is to update the county's ordinances and general plans. And John Gunther is currently working on that. He's ramped up. He's got all the interviews scheduled. He's held, meetings. So he's moving fast and furiously through all of this to get that information. But the land use code is something that I would hope that we could have someone who has knowledge about the land use codes. And you know what, that might apply as well to the city land use codes. So we have an understanding, and that's where Corey or Nora could help as well in that. And then from the county, John, we will have to defer to him or someone on his team to help us with this subcommittee so they can go through the land use codes and really so if we created a subcommittee of, say, Corey, for example, and maybe John's new associate planner, they could go through the land use codes, and then we could discuss that. They could make a presentation to us with John's approval, and then we'd have a better understanding of where, the direction that we need to go in, or what are the challenges or unintended barriers to the diversification. Does that sound like it might work?
Yeah, I would really appreciate that sort of presentation and sort of support and sort of kind of a show of collaboration with the planning and zoning in approaching that. So yeah, I really like that. Well,
thank you. And I think it's good because then we'd have the city and the county, we would be reviewing their, the codes for each entity. And then instead of doing one and not worrying about the other, I think it makes sense to collaborate together on that and sort of unearth what might be the unintended barriers. And maybe we don't have as many as we think we do, but I think it would be good for us to, okay, so that's great. And then the next one would be to focus on USU as a development node. So consider adding this as a goal to the scope of work of the SITLA subcommittee. So Emily and Carly, you are reaching out to SITLA. I don't know if they've responded at all. But I guess, Liana, you might want to be part of that since we're trying to make the most of that incredible location south of town. So I think when it comes to the development, now, how do you feel about that, Liana, being part of that committee for this group?
Yeah, I think it makes sense. I can sort of, although, it's really no different than any other place in town, because it's not, I have no control over that other than it's the, it's the road was built up there for USU. Right. And that's all the development around it is a consequence of that. But I'm happy to serve on that, but I don't know that.
I think your insight as to what is sort of keeping us up to date on what, because we're kind of outsiders to that. You kind of know what's going on up on the hill there.
I actually don't.
You don't?
No, I don't. I mean, I know what goes on our property, but I don't know what's going on with SITLA. In fact, I did call to ask about that, and I did speak to Brooke Cole the other day, and also the I can't remember her name now. The Troy Harold has moved on to a new role, and so his replacement, I don't recall. I'm sorry, I don't remember her name right now. But I've talked to both of them about like how does student housing work? It's an independent thing. How do we communicate with our students and so we're sort of working on that. I think that the city is planning a meeting with them soon, but I don't know.
Okay. Well, I guess Carly, since it's annexed into the city, do you have any recommendations on that?
And how we sort of deal with that question? I think it's a really good question because there's sort of, it's preliminary right now, so which is the good news, right? If we want to get sort of at the ground floor to understand what's going on,
right?
Do it. And I wonder, I mean, I feel like the city is kind of in the dark as well. Like that's how preliminary it is. And what I can do is speak with Nora and maybe my engineer too, to understand like when this could come to the committee, and whether it's Nora presenting and discussing it, whether it's the city engineer. It is not totally clear to me, or, you know, like our affordable housing special projects manager,
Right.
Caitlin Myers, if she's the one who is doing it. So,
I don't know if it would help. I'm going to be in Salt Lake at the end of the month for meetings, but is there anyone up in Salt Lake that I could schedule an appointment with while I'm up there just to do a touch base?
Yes, let me find out the name of, I think Stacy somebody, but I'll give you her name.
Okay, because I'm going up on I'll be there the 26th and 27th, but I can certainly meet with them like on the 28th, schedule something.
I think an informal meeting, I think will probably be fine. But I like I wonder if the statement that this is very preliminary, getting in on the ground floor, because I do know that they are planning, they have, it's been over a year that they've had a developer, and they have already plans for, you know, when I talk to them, they already have plans for apartments and everything. I mean, I think they're well on the way to have invested in a plan that matches our master plan, you know, that
well, that's good. That's good. Yeah, that's good if they're doing that. I guess for us to just be informed, because no one seems to know what is going on. You know, they could have, you know, create who knows what they're creating up there, but I think it would be nice for us to be aware of what's happening, to support what they're doing or find ways to help even make it better. So
I agree.
Yeah, that would be fine with me if you don't mind doing that.
Let me get her name.
Yeah, I think like there are two strains when it comes to at least the city. So there's one where it's Nora, the planning department, helping them, you know, conform to their development agreement, all of the, as the regulator, the city is the regulator, about land use, whatever it is. And then there's the arm of the city where we're more persuasive, right? Trying to see if we can negotiate some sort of better outcome for the city, whether that's through housing, or, you know, the way that Emily and I are approaching it is if we can just sort of maybe not for USU, because I think that's a little more cooked, but how we can talk about their business model here when it comes to Southern Utah properties and how they're developed and how that's all, what the calculus is, you know, and trying to mitigate those impacts to the communities. So I don't know if they're at the stage where that's at USU, it's something they're willing to rethink, you know, from the more foundational questions, or if that's for new properties as we're going forward. Kind of wiggle room, you know, if they're going to build a hotel there on the property, they have to contribute to the Wahoo, for example.
Right.
But is there more negotiation? Is there more they're willing to give? You know, that could be a role for this community, definitely for my city council, and maybe if we can arm them with those negotiating points, that would be helpful.
Right. Got it.
I like your instinct, Elaine. If you can talk to someone and just say, hey, what's the comfort level?
Yeah, it's like we're excited about the project, but no one has any, you know, what we want to know what's happening so we can help support it and really be, you know.
I think that's a good attitude, yeah.
So I think that's what we want to, you know, we want to know. I mean, they're here, it's going to happen. We just want to know, you know, what is happening, because we get questions about it. And so anyway, it would help all the way around. Okay. So that's good. And again, I'll be there at the end of the month. If I can meet with anybody in Salt Lake, I'm more than happy to do that in person or even a Zoom call. And then the point 4 is build infrastructure that supports diversification. And I'm actually going to dive into another point that's here on the discussion and action item, which is Chris Baird, who is the budget officer, has allocated from the TRT a $1.2 million for economic development diversification. So out of that, I have to take out the operational budget, which I'm working on right now, which is going to be several $100,000s between salary, you know, all and benefits and just all the operational costs. So I would have to say that from that money, we probably could have about 800,000 right now, and I'm not done it with any of it, but just eyeballing it, about 800,000 that we can divide up into supporting, you know, infrastructure projects, support diversification. What can we do with that funding? What would be those? I know that we talked, or he had mentioned about having a rural loan fund that we could operate out of, you know, part of that money. So if we set aside, for example, a couple 100,000 that we're going to give grant funding to, and I just checked with the SCUALG, and they can operate with board approval. They can operate those loans for us out of that office. So I asked them if that was possible. But are there incentives? You know, I don't know if there are any ideas of how we can take those funds and, you know, bring opportunities. And I hesitate that only because we don't know what the land use code unintended barriers are. Because if there are barriers to moving forward because of zoning, that we aren't going to be able to offer incentives for companies to come in here, then I don't think we should tie up the money by putting it into a pot that isn't going to be allocated because the zoning laws won't permit something to happen. So I want to make sure that we're careful about how we are taking a look at this money and how we're going to be able to utilize it. So, and I've also reached out to Stuart Clausen, who's very familiar with, you know, all of the programs that are available with the state, and there could be matching funds that we would have to come up with. So I'm exploring that. So I think what we have to do is I have to sort of confirm what is available in, for instance, on the rural grant funding that we're going to apply for 200,000. We have to come up with 40,000, which would then come out of this economic development budget. So, and that's going to be for local distribution in the different thing. We discussed that last meeting, the other meeting. So I guess what I'd like to hear are some ideas, if anyone has ideas about how we could possibly, because I will meet with Chris and discuss it. He's got some pretty, you know, pretty good ideas about what we'd like to do with it. And Gabriel, I don't know if you would like to sit in on that meeting when I meet with him, but that would be great. But does anyone have any ideas of, you know, how do we take, say, 800,000 and what do we do with it?
I just want to say briefly before we move off of this document, or did we resolve everything here? Did we need to take some sort of vote or action on this document?
Because we're on the fourth one, and my hope was that we would have an action item that approves all of it.
Great. I just wanted to make sure I was clear.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I would say, you know, identifying the barriers that currently exist that aren't tied with the land use code. And, you know, that I feel like that would be, you know, rather than sort of trying to take a little bit more of a proactive kind of wishful approach in terms of, you know, in terms of dedicating a lot of these funds to, you know, ideas that may be very creative and very exciting, but potentially might not end up being good fits, or might not have really a proven track record that we can feel confident about. You know, I think that, you know, ultimately it's about, you know, trying to tease out what are the barriers that exist for county residents at present, and you know, if the revolving loan idea, which I think is a good idea. So for startup, is it startup costs? I mean, I think, you know, that's one thing that maybe comes to mind for me, but otherwise it's really sort of listening to what the barriers are existing in a way that, you know, we could be involved in.
Right. I think one of the big barriers we have is not enough staff, pool of people that can work in the county because of our housing situation. I mean, if we wanted to bring a company in that needed, 50 to 100 people, there's no way that we could afford to find that many people to support a company's staffing. I think that's a huge barrier to economic diversification, and I think it's a big one. If we don't have people to fill these jobs, which we're suffering now because of no housing, I think that's a huge barrier. I mean, that's my opinion from talking to the businesses, from being out there to seeing what, RFIs come out and they're requesting, different types of numbers of staff. But I think that's a huge one. And I'm not sure that, unless we could find a developer that will come in and build apartment buildings or something, or, do we help with HASU? Do we help with housing in that way to have more roofs over people's heads so we can increase the number of employees that would be available? So I think that is the biggest barrier even before the land use code. That's my thought.
Sorry, Daniel. I would kind of like to know what I think a lot of this, I think from what I'm hearing, is a lot of the, need for employees is maybe anecdotal. I don't know. What is the true, unemployment? What is this? I'd like to have a more refined picture of what this looks like. Are people unskilled? Are they just not wanting to, maybe there's more jobs than are available, or they're choosing. I'd like a better picture of the employment. A more realistic picture rather than,
well, I know that in the hospitality area, they're suffering because they don't have enough staff, wait staff, the hotels. That's why you constantly see the hourly rate going up to $18 to $22 because they're all trying to hire from this small pool of people. And the fact that we don't have a bedroom community to pull from, it's 50 miles away. That makes it increasingly challenging for the restaurants, the hoteliers. But I think we can certainly, and we do have that information somewhere, and we can certainly send that out to everyone just to give you an idea from Workforce Services what our, do we have that information, August? Didn't we dig that up we have it somewhere in a file, one of the folders.
I know that probably a couple of months ago, it was.
Oh, Lacey. Yeah, I'm glad you're on. Hello.
Sorry, I got hung up picking my daughter up from work. But anyway, it was about, now I don't remember exactly if it was 5 or 6%, but I know it was about 1% higher than it was, in previous years. So as far as unemployment goes, I don't know if that's, I mean, that's I guess 1% could be a significant number, but I don't know that that's necessarily the problem. And in talking to businesses, it's definitely, they feel like if they could get affordable housing or even housing availability, they could move people in. However, some of them are saying even just transportation to some of these, outlying communities would be a help. Also, so I don't know if that's something we want to look into, but I do think it is just a matter of not enough people for the number of jobs open.
And when you talk about skilled workers, I think we probably have, we need, with all the housing and all the construction going on here, we don't have enough plumbers and electricians and, you know, the skilled workers. I think we lack big time in that area too. But again, if they can't live here, they can't work here. So
I guess my perspective is a little different, is like, are there people who are unemployed and unskilled that we could train and not have to import?
well, we'd have to, I think we probably could check with Kelly Thornton. She might be able to weigh in on that for us.
Yeah, I just would like to have a clearer picture, because what I'm hearing is sort of anecdotal, you know. I mean, it's not anecdotal that businesses can't find employees, but I'm not sure why employees aren't going. Is it truly that we don't have enough people, or that they're choosing not to work or can't work you know, I don't know. I just would like a clearer picture of
Sure.
The whole thing. Yeah.
Okay. Well, we'll do some research on that end and provide that. I know.
Well, I wonder if there's a way to find out just how many, you know, residents, how many people move in each year. Because just in like asking around, I asked the hotels, you know, about how many employees it takes to open up a new hotel. And they said typically 80 to 100 employees. And you think of how many hotels we've opened just this year. I think we've done maybe 3. But in the last couple of years, if each of those hotels that opens needs 100 employees, like, are we building our resident base, you know what I mean, equally? And so I don't know how to find out that information, but it would be great if we could.
Okay, well, we'll see what we can unearth on all of this data and these statistics, and we'll send that out to everybody. So
with regards to the, you know, the workforce housing issue, you know, definitely agree. It's right. You know, it's very apparent. I guess with regards to the use of these funds and that potentially 800K that you quoted. I guess it's unclear to me how that we don't come up against this issue with the land use code and the revisions that might be needed there. And also, like, if that sum of, you know, so even, you know, that sum of money, you know, even if we had all of 800K to facilitate a developer like Hasu or another private developer to do so, you know, would it be even possible with the in areas of buildable land or whatnot? So I guess I'm not sure. You know, I think it goes back to even to when we were talking about the funds from the governor's office, where, you know, there's talk about using some of that money to assist in the workforce housing crisis, but it's really tricky to understand where that money is best spent, because it just seems like a real gridlock, for reasons that I don't fully understand yet, in terms of, I get, you know, other than a simple supply and demand cost of land type scenario. What else are the barriers there? So yeah, I guess yeah, it'll be interesting. I guess it's still unclear to me how you know, if we could take 800K and we knew it would be able to fast track an apartment building, you know, I would say that that's a great use of taxpayer funds. But otherwise, yeah, I'm not sure how possible that is.
All right. Well, I guess that gives us let's see here. So I just pulled up labor force data from Workforce Services, and we'll gather this information here and see. Let me just see here what we can combine as far as the statistical report to send out about these details. I know that in 2021, it said, and this is seasonally adjusted, that labor force, for instance, in May was 6,657. The employment was 6,429. Unemployed were 238 people, and it's around 230 something, which is about 3.6% for March, April, May. February, of course, is 4.5%, and then January was 5.6% unemployment. So, all right, let me see if I can find this. All right, the annual average. And I think, whoops. Oh, it's not going to come up. Let's try 2020. So it looked like the annual average 2020 seasonally not adjusted numbers for the labor force data. Unemployment was 9.5%, and we had about 587 people unemployed in 2020. But that, again, that's the pandemic year. So that's going to be, there will be a shift. So we don't have 2021 because.
What about 19?
Let me check. Annual average was 3.9, which is about where we are in these first 6 months. So, or first 5 months. So it's 3.9. Unemployment, we had 242 people at that time, seasonally not adjusted annual average. So that was 3.9%.
I guess my body, I'm trying to distill my thoughts here. The discrepancy between, open jobs, unemployment, and underemployment as well. Like, maybe some people can't afford to take some of the jobs because it doesn't pay their bills, So I'd like to understand that. I think that might be helpful in trying to figure out housing for folks, instead of, I don't know that importing people is always the answer in all cases. I think we have to import for certain jobs for sure. But if we have people here that just need to be trained from the education.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. If they exist here and they need to be trained, why not? Unless they don't want to be trained.
Sure.
They want to stay, they want to stay on unemployment. And I think the governor, I don't know when did that stop, the unemployment? Was it the end of the extra $300 a week? I think that was the end of June, I think. So, so we might see a shift with maybe more people going back, trying to take jobs if they're not getting that extra funding from the government for unemployment. That could make a difference, not sure. But nonetheless, we'll put information together and we will, we'll get that out to everybody. So, alrighty. So I guess we have the 4 points. I guess the thing is, if we agree, if you want to make a motion about these 4, that this would be the focus for this group to move forward. If someone would do that, and then we can always make an amendment if necessary to that motion.
Do we want to go ahead and appoint the subcommittees, or those are there any that are left to be formed? Would that be appropriate to do during this motion, or?
Yeah, I think that's probably a good idea.
That particular one that's highlighted, I'd be happy to volunteer to be involved in that capacity, if there's room for county commissioner.
And then we could ask, Carly, you think Nora or Corey could be one of the other participants for that forum?
Yeah, I do think so.
Okay, and then we'll ask John Gunther if one of his, one of the staff in his office could actually participate as well.
I'm happy to help with some of those subcommittees as well. I'm wondering if it's something that we've had a lot of chamber chats, just talking to people about what the land use code, what changes they'd like to see. So I don't know if that's something that you know, whoever's on this committee would be willing to join us in those chamber chats and listen to a few of those ideas or not. But I'm happy to kind of be the go-between there if that's.
I think that would be a great idea to get, you know, the chamber, the businesses, and get comments. Do you have the businesses and the public? Is it open to everyone?
Yep, it is. It's open to anyone.
Yeah, that might be good. Might be a good discussion.
Yeah, any forum where we can get feedback from the community,
Yeah.
business or otherwise, I think is
Right.
tremendously positive.
Yeah. And maybe we also ask about diversification, what they'd like to see in the community as far as diversification, have that maybe on the same agenda.
Yeah, totally. I think our next one is going to be on the property tax with the city, but then we could look at this afterwards.
Okay, I think that's, gosh, that would be awesome, Lacey, if you could do that. I think that would be great.
I'll talk to my community action committee and just be sure that they're on my page.
Okay. Okay, so do I have a motion for these key points that these 4 action items that, and we're going to appoint subcommittees. So we know that the first one, can you scroll down, August, we're going to have, okay, so the first one, I think the first one, I can work on that with August. We'll try to get a group together for this forum. And if anyone wants to join, that's great, but we can certainly take that one on.
And I wanted to be clear on that, is that I believe the vision of the plan is to create an individual forum with each partner. As written, that's what it's stating. So I just want to make sure that that's clear. That's what we're taking on there.
So they want a forum from the city, from the regional business community, from the local districts, the state offices and nonprofit. There's forums from each one of those, each 5 of those. Is that what you're saying?
That's my understanding of what the action plan asks us to do. We don't have to do that. We can amend that if that's what we please, but that's how I have it written here.
I don't know. I sort of disagree with that in a way. I think it's better if we combine sort of in these different groups to have an open conversation and sort of discuss, you know, because local districts, they would know what's happening in the four county area. I think in state offices kind of knows the direction for the whole state. And I think if you can bring, I don't know, I could be wrong, but I'm thinking if you bring those entities together in a forum, you've got more chance for people to collaborate, and we can talk about how, you know, rather than having a forum from just the city, I think it's more, I don't know, I could be wrong, but I think we get a lot more out of it by collaborating with that 5 or 6 people or 7 people in that forum. Thoughts?
I know from like the city's perspective, we're a little separate, just for whatever reason, especially staff, where a lot of this is happening. It does feel like there's some siloing between like us and like the state offices, Go Utah, EDC. You know, we're always just catching up to what they're having to do, especially when it comes to Moab specifically or what they're interested in. So again, however the county wants to best manage this, because that's what you're doing. Maybe it's a little bit of both, like an occasion where we're all getting together and then sort of splitting off, but developing common goals might be a good idea. Maybe a hybrid system.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wonder.
That's
For
a good
me,
idea.
I kind of feel like having a forum, you know, when we do it like with students, we want to get a sense of what they're really thinking, right? And so when you get a bunch of people with different interests in a room, a lot of those things might not come out, you know? And so I think that you're going to get more information if you do individual forums with them. And then afterwards, maybe have some kind of a, you know, like, here's what we heard from everybody, or put something together.
Sure.
Because if you put all those people in the same room, you're not, think about, you know, Carly from the city, you know, if you're in the room with folks in the States and, everywhere else, you're not going to say a lot of things that you would if it's just city folks talking to somebody, So I think you're going to get a lot more rich information as a starting point by talking to each of these groups individually so that they can feel heard and be the focus of the attention. And
okay, so then I guess we'll defer to you, Carly, if you want to put a forum together for the city. And Lacey, I would say the same for the chamber. And then SEUALG, I'll contact them and see if they want to have a forum together. We'll contact Go Utah and EDC Utah separately and let them weigh in. And then Wabi Sabi, will contact them and we'll ask each individual group to create this particular forum and discussion and give them ideas of what we're looking for.
Yeah, and I think ideally we can present probably like the high level conversation summaries maybe at the Canyonlands Business Summit. We're going to have that anyway. And so I think that's a good place to say, this is where we're all at on these various things. And
yeah,
what's common, what are the common points? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll just make a note of that.
That works. So
can I also just real quick ask with nonprofits, you have Wabi Sabi et al. But is there, there's a lot of nonprofits. Is Wabi Sabi the de facto leader? Does everybody agree on that? Or
so they're not necessarily a de facto leader, but we've talked to a couple of nonprofits, and they're the ones that we had a conversation with, in which they have a regularly scheduled kind of forum for nonprofit leaders, and they offered to have us have kind of a session in which they would kind of host it for us with the nonprofit community. So it's not so that we're like only talking to Liz Dana and no one else in the nonprofit world.
Yeah, I wanted to make sure we're being inclusive there. That was my question.
I would think that they could form a group from all the nonprofits that they have and bring that group together, the forum, because they're kind of the outlet to disseminate information to all of those particular groups. And that would be good because they could bring together different entities. I think that would be fantastic.
I was going to say, when we had that conversation, one of the takeaways was exactly this. We should probably have, as a community, like a nonprofit chamber of commerce to represent the interests of the nonprofit community. We have the chamber of commerce for the businesses, and the nonprofits have a role to play in this diversification effort in a large way. And what can we do, and what resources do they want to advocate for, and can we provide, et cetera, et cetera. So.
Okay. All right. So let's see. I think we have gone through all four. So I get anyone add any other comments before we ask for a motion? Okay. So I'll entertain a motion for the 4 key points that we have outlined here for approval, and we will put together the list of everybody that's on these committees and how we're going to move forward in the forums, and then we'll move forward. So I guess we'll need a motion to approve these priority strategic action items.
I would move to approve these 4 priority strategic action items as written in this document.
Okay, and a second?
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Looks like we've got a plan. Yay! All righty. Okay, so, and we did talk about so let me cross that off the list. All right, and it says to discuss a strategy to begin a comprehensive review of the county land use code as it pertains. So I think that kind of dovetails into this. because we have that listed as a separate point, unless you were thinking something else, August, from what we've got on the agenda. I think we've pretty much covered that.
I think we've covered it. I think the only thing would be the formal creation of a subcommittee. I don't know if that was contained in the last motion, but
yeah, well, the subcommittee would be from the city, and it would be for Gabriel, and it would be somebody from John Gunther's office, whether it's John or one of his staff that would be on that committee. So I think.
Do we need to formally like motion and vote and all of that for the subcommittees?
Yes.
Okay. Should we do that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Well, we can recommend that happen.
We've approved the overall strategic action items, so we know those are approved because we didn't change those. So I guess if you want to go up to the top, I will entertain a motion for the creation of forums from each of those 5 groups. If someone would like to make a motion that will have forums from each of the identified groups that are here. And
I can make a motion to create forums for each of the 5 groups identified in this document.
do I have a second?
A second.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, then number 2 would be to update the county's ordinances and general plan, a comprehensive review of the land use code, and that's basically where we were talking, informing a forum. So I need a motion to approve a forum, or excuse me, a committee for subcommittee to review the land use code, and that would be Nora from the city or Corey Shirtliff from the city, both in planning and zoning. And then Gabriel Wojtek would like to be part of that, and John Gunther or one of his staff to form that particular subcommittee. Would someone like to make a motion?
So moved.
All right, do I have a second?
I'll do it again.
I'll second.
Okay, all right, any discussion? All in favor? Okay. Then number 3 is to focus on USU as a development node. And I can certainly step up to that if you, and I could be the subcommittee for that one. And I will, if you have contacts, you can send them to me and I'll reach out and I'll try to do some research on my own. But we would need a motion for approving the subcommittee for SITLA and their scope of work. So would someone like to make a motion?
So moved.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
All right. Any discussion? All in favor? All right, and then the last one is to build infrastructure that supports diversification. And we're going to dedicate a portion of the economic development budget to this end and create a subcommittee to explore all possible projects. I am currently working on the budget, which I have to finish. So I guess, I don't know if we should table this one or because I'm thinking I would be on that subcommittee. Would anyone else like to be on that subcommittee?
I would help with that subcommittee.
Okay, and I'll ask Chris Baird if he would like to work with us. So that would be me, Lacey, and Chris Baird for that subcommittee. So I need a motion to create a subcommittee to explore possible projects for the economic development diversification budget.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
And any discussion? All in favor? Okay. Okay, so we got through that one, yay. All right, thank you. All right, what else? All right, we're gonna pass on the update from, Carly, do you have an update from SITLA, or if you don't, I mean, I don't know if you and Emily have worked on anything since then.
I don't have anything, and Emily might.
Okay.
Work to have something next time.
All right, no worries. And then update from subcommittee to bring action items from the diversification action plan to the county commission. Gabriel, I guess I'd ask direction from you. Where do you think we should go from here to update the commissioners?
I think I'd have to think about it a little bit more.
Yeah, sure. I mean, are they expecting, should we wait a few months to sort of give them more after we form the subcommittees and do some due diligence and then go back to them, and, you know, instead of wasting their time because they're so busy? Well, you know that you're busy.
I would say that there's probably plenty of patience and sort of willingness to let this group do a little work,
Okay.
To actually have something present. And in the meantime, as I did really briefly in last night's meeting, you know, I'll offer updates during my report, just so that folks can still feel engaged and
oh, that's a great idea.
Yeah,
that's a great
progress.
idea.
Yeah.
They'll get snippets from the meetings, and then as we uncover more and come to more consensus on I think that's fantastic idea. Okay, that's great.
I would just say, like, I would say as long as maybe a presentation is made kind of like before budget season starts, maybe that should be a general goal, you know?
Okay. So maybe we could look at September, end of September sometime for the presentation. Okay, cool. All right, and then the next is after our last meeting, Brandon mentioned the inland port. And so I had a call with Jill Flygar she's the COO of the Utah Inland Port Association, and to sort of find out exactly what our opportunities were. And she said that would this Port Authority, would it be beneficial to our community? And what we discussed is they can partner with the county for horizontal infrastructure, whether it's rail, you know, something that's really going to help a community. And what it would be, they're not going to give us money, but it would be a revolving loan that they would provide to us. And a city can put TIF into it, and they bond it. So for instance, if we wanted to extend the train all the way through Grand County, you know, that we would go to them with this project. She said they got $75 million that the legislator put that into the bank, and they're looking for horizontal infrastructure for cargo flow. And how they can make it more effective to move cargo back and forth through the state. So they're not looking for, you know, shovel-ready projects, but they're looking for large projects that would, you know, really make a huge difference. So, you know, it's pretty much, how do we have, you know, how can we move more cargo out from Grand County or San Juan County? You know, the freight aggregation of the freight movement. And they really were talking in terms of rail. They really seem to be, you know, how do we bring commodities together? So that's pretty much what the money's not free. It's a bonding package. And we'd have to, you know, there's a payback mechanism. So
So Elaine, do you think that that would, in the context of Grand County, that would sort of put Crescent Junction in a position to sort of be involved, or that, you know, that in terms of what that would mean for Grand County? Because, you know, without a bypass, you know, it's unclear, you know, sort of a train through, you know, from San Juan from that direction. Not really sure how that would work exactly.
Well, you know, Gabriel, I think that we ought to talk to Chris about that and what this might mean. And I can also set up another call with Jill. So if, you know, it might be something we explore with him on how that could work. And if we see there's value in it, maybe then move forward to sort of have a conversation with San Juan County to see if, you know, my concern was what if we found a way to do this, could it remove truck traffic? I don't know, going north and south from, you know, San Juan and Grand up north. So, but which could be not possible, but I think it might be worth a discussion.
Yeah, I mean, if it benefits the residents here, then yeah, I would absolutely agree.
Okay, so he's on vacation, but you know what? When Chris is back, I'll see if I can schedule a 30-minute, you know, maybe we can get Jill on the phone and do a Zoom call between all four of us. Cool. All right. Okay, so stay tuned on that. And let's see, what else? So we wanted to, okay, consider nominating a Grand County representative for EDAC, representative to attend future Planning Commission meetings for the county. Is there anyone that might want to volunteer? Are they twice a month, the Planning Commission meetings?
Yeah, they're the Monday, it's like the 2nd and 4th.
Well, let's see.
Sorry, you're kind of cutting out. Are you looking for someone to attend the Planning Commission meeting for the county?
Yes. Yeah, they're on Monday evenings, or they start, I think they start early at 4, I think.
Are they doing Zoom, hybrid, anything, or is it in person, or what is that?
They were doing Zoom. I listened a couple weeks ago and they were on Zoom, but I don't know if they're shifting. Some groups are shifting to a hybrid, you know, just depends.
Yeah.
So
I'm happy to do it when I can, but afternoons are pretty spotty for me, just with kids' schedules and stuff. So if it needs to be super consistent, I'm not the best choice, but I'm happy to help where I can.
okay.
I think also just to add some context to this, I just added this to the agenda because it was discussed at the last meeting as an idea, and just wanted to create a forum for discussion if this is something that the group wanted to do, to have, you know, an eye on the Planning Commission and a voice there. That's all I wanted to just kind of share that.
The other option would be to have somebody from the Planning Commission give us an overview of what they discussed. I think that might be, we approach them and tell them, because our group this is really an important group, and the county wouldn't have gone through everything that it did just because. So I think we have to ask if we could have, you know, it could be a 15-minute presentation on what was discussed in the last 2 meetings, since we're only meeting once a month. But I think if we went to them first, I mean, sorry, I don't mean to monopolize the conversation, but I think if we asked them to have a representative, and it could be anybody from that Planning Commission, to come and give us an overview of what happened during those meetings.
Well, don't we have Emily on this board? And isn't she?
Yeah, she's not here. She could, well, and she might agree to do that, or John may have an idea, or maybe one of the other board members. or one of the planning commission members might agree to it. So we could ask Emily, reach out and ask Emily.
Yeah, I would, I think I would recommend that, like sort of maybe, I guess I would like Emily's feedback in terms of how much of the agenda of a regular planning commission meeting would be sort of even in the sort of like pretty directly related to the group, the work of this group. So I almost wonder if, yeah, if Emily has some feedback about how the information can come to us, or if, or maybe as an alternative to one of us attending every meeting, maybe maybe periodically, say once every 2 months, maybe we actually get put on the agenda for a short discussion / presentation. That's just a thought.
Yeah, that's
it might be. I know all our time is very valuable, and planning commission meetings, can be long, and it's it's quite a few of them. So I just don't want anyone to feel like their time isn't being used well.
Yeah, and I've gotten on, been part of those meetings when I'm available to do so, like Lacey. But I think that, okay, so we'll reach out to Emily and discuss that with her and get her recommendation. All right, and then discussing holding future meetings in person, hybrid, or remotely. Would anyone like to weigh in on your thoughts on that?
I'm fully open to either. No, that doesn't help.
You're flexible. You're flexible.
So personally, I like in-person meetings, but like I said, 3 o'clock is just like, whether it's summer or whether it's school year, it's just a really bad time for me. So if I can't hop on the phone call, I may not be able to attend as often because sometimes I'm driving in my car. So I love in person, but just because of the time of our meetings, I would probably be able to call in better.
Right. Well, I think, Carly, how do you feel about that?
I actually feel the same way. Like it makes it so convenient, the Zoom, but I miss in person. I think we can get a lot done in person. So I would say I'm happy with either, whatever.
Okay.
Staff and the rest of the group.
All right, Liana.
So maybe let's suggest hybrid, because I too, sometimes the flexibility in trying to get there. Although I love to be in person, I'm still kind of creeping out on going out in public yet. But I think a hybrid option, if we're, we sort of plan on being there in person, but with the flexibility of somebody who can't make it, to be at least even be able to just attend a little bit. I think that has a lot of merit.
I think Zoom is convenient for those of us that are in our offices and or we have a lot of meetings but I like the hybrid if you could do one or the other. So we'll work with the calendar, because they do have, I think Mary mentioned it at the meeting, although I don't know that we have all the equipment, but we did do a meeting we did a meeting with John Gunther last week, I guess it was. And it seemed to work. People were around the table, and then the participants, were on Zoom, and that seemed to work okay. They could hear us. So since we're not a really large group, that might work. So we'll just have to see if we can have the chambers so that we could facilitate that. And we can do okay. So all those in favor of a hybrid meeting? Do I have a motion or make a motion for a hybrid meeting?
I move to have our meetings be hybrid.
Okay. Do I have a second?
A second.
Okay. And any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. All righty. I think that's all that's on the agenda, unless anyone has anything else.
Thank you, Elaine and August, for preparing this and being so well organized. And I'm excited for what can be always.
I know. Well, it takes a village over here. We're all kind of working together. Ben is doing the minutes. August and I are collaborating on, the agendas. And feel free, if you have any recommendations shoot us an email. We're open for, we just want this group to be the best board, council, you know, that we have here in the community, so we can start moving some of these projects and ideas forward. So, and then I'm going to work on the budget. As soon as Chris takes a look at it, I will get that off to everybody. Ben will send out the notes, and then we will contact the rest of these people for the committees and forums. And we thank you very much for your participation. It means a lot. Thank you.
Thank you. And it's exciting to have some priorities to focus on.
Yes, exactly. 4 of them. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.
Bye.
I know.